The morning sun cast long shadows across Central High School as students rushed to their first class. Among them was Alex Chen, a quiet 16-year-old who always sat in the back row. Today was different, though. Everyone was talking about the new physics teacher. "Did you hear? The old Mr. Peterson retired suddenly," whispered Jenny, Alex's best friend, as they walked into class. "They say the new teacher just appeared out of nowhere." The classroom fell silent as Ms. Sarah Williams walked in. She looked young, maybe in her late 20s, with dark hair and bright blue eyes that seemed to glow in certain lights. Unlike other teachers who always had their phones or tablets, Ms. Williams carried only an old leather notebook. "Good morning, class," she said with a slight smile. Her voice was soft, but carried across the room easily. "I'm Ms. Williams, your new physics teacher." Alex noticed something odd right away. While most teachers struggled with the smart board or fumbled with their laptops, Ms. Williams never touched any electronic device. She wrote on the old whiteboard with perfect handwriting, drawing complex diagrams freehand as if she'd memorized them. During the lesson about stars and space, Ms. Williams spoke about distant planets as if she'd seen them herself. "Imagine standing on a planet where two suns rise each morning," she said, her eyes distant. "The way the light bends and creates shadows you never see on Earth." The whole class was captivated. Even Mike Thompson, who usually slept through every lesson, sat up straight and paid attention. When she talked about gravity, she didn't just quote textbooks. She explained it like she understood something deeper, something beyond what their books could tell them. "Everything in the universe is connected," she said, "in ways we're only beginning to understand." After class, Alex stayed behind to organize his books. That's when he saw something strange. Ms. Williams pulled out what looked like a normal pencil, but when she touched it to her notebook, the writing glowed faintly blue before fading into normal ink. Alex ducked behind his desk, heart pounding. Ms. Williams didn't notice him. She was too focused on whatever she was writing. Later that day, as the sun was setting and most students had gone home, Alex realized he'd forgotten his math textbook in his locker. Walking back through the quiet halls, he noticed a strange blue light coming from under Ms. Williams' classroom door. Curious, Alex crept closer. Through the small window in the door, he saw something impossible. Ms. Williams stood in the middle of the room, but the room wasn't normal anymore. The air around her shimmered with tiny points of light, like stars floating in space. Above her desk, a three-dimensional map of what looked like solar systems floated in the air. Ms. Williams moved her hands through the lights, rearranging them like she was conducting an orchestra. Her face looked worried as she focused on one particular cluster of lights that glowed red instead of blue. Alex leaned closer, trying to see better. His foot hit the door with a soft thud. The lights vanished instantly. Ms. Williams spun around, her eyes wide with alarm. For a split second, Alex could have sworn her eyes glowed like stars themselves. Alex ran. He ran all the way home, his heart thundering in his chest. His mind raced with questions. Who was Ms. Williams, really? What was that strange map? Why did she look so worried? That night, Alex couldn't sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw those floating lights and Ms. Williams' glowing eyes. He thought about how she never used any technology, how she spoke about space like she'd been there, how she seemed to know things no normal teacher should know. Tomorrow, he decided, he would get answers. But as he finally drifted off to sleep, one thought kept circling in his mind. His new physics teacher was definitely not from around here. And maybe, just maybe, she meant not from around here in a way that was far more distant than anyone could imagine. The glowing digits of his alarm clock hit 3:33 am when Alex woke to a strange humming sound outside his window. Above the trees, a blue light pulsed in the night sky, exactly like the lights he'd seen in Ms. Williams' classroom. But when he rushed to look closer, both the light and the humming were gone, leaving him to wonder if he'd dreamed it all. Alex couldn't focus in any of his morning classes. The image of those floating lights kept playing in his mind. During lunch break, he gathered his courage and walked to Ms. Williams' classroom, but stopped short at the door. Two men in black suits were inside, talking to her. "You know the rules, Sarah," one man said. "No contact with." He stopped mid-sentence and turned sharply toward the door. Alex ducked away, but not fast enough. "Hey, kid," the second man called out. Heart racing, Alex ran down the hallway. He heard footsteps behind him, getting closer. Just as he turned the corner, someone grabbed his arm and pulled him into a dark supply closet. It was Ms. Williams. She pressed a finger to her lips, her eyes glowing faintly in the darkness. She held something in her hand that looked like a small crystal. When she squeezed it, a soft hum filled the air, and the footsteps of the men passed right by without stopping. "They couldn't see the door," she explained quietly, "but we don't have much time. The perception filter only works for a few minutes." "Who are they? What's going on?" Alex whispered. "They're called monitors," Ms. Williams said, peeking through the door crack. "They enforce the rules of non-interference. I've already broken several by coming here." "Coming here from where?" Before she could answer, her crystal started pulsing with red light. "They're coming back. Alex, I need you to trust me. Things are about to get very strange." She pulled out what looked like a normal pencil, the same one Alex had seen her use before. But when she pointed it at the wall, the brick surface rippled like water. "Quick, through here." She pushed Alex toward the wall. To his shock, he passed right through it, emerging in the school parking lot. "Run home," Ms. Williams instructed. "Don't stop. Don't look back. And whatever you do, don't use any electronic devices tonight. They can track those. But I'll explain everything tomorrow. Look for the blue flower in your garden. When it blooms, it's safe to come find me." Before Alex could ask what she meant, she touched the crystal to the wall and disappeared back through it. The brick surface solidified instantly. That evening, Alex sat by his window, watching his garden. His phone, computer, and tablet were all turned off, stored in a drawer. As the sun set, something extraordinary happened. A small plant pushed up through the soil, growing impossibly fast. Within minutes, it sprouted a flower that glowed with the same blue light he'd seen in Ms. Williams' classroom. But that wasn't the strangest part. Looking up at the sky, Alex noticed all the stars were moving, shifting into new positions, and in the distance, where the school stood, a massive shape darkened the horizon, something that definitely wasn't a building. His bedroom light flickered, then went out. In the sudden darkness, Alex heard a soft voice from outside his window. "They found us sooner than I expected. Get ready, Alex. You're about to learn why I really came to Earth." A high-pitched tone filled the air, and everything electronic in his room sparked with blue electricity. Through his window, Alex watched in amazement as Ms. Williams appeared in his garden, but she looked different now. Her human appearance seemed to shimmer and fade, revealing something beneath that made Alex's eyes hurt just trying to look at it. She raised her hand toward his window, and Alex felt a strange tingling sensation throughout his body. "Time for your first lesson," she said, her voice somehow both familiar and completely alien. "And this one isn't about physics, at least, not the kind they teach on Earth." The ground beneath his feet began to vibrate, and Alex realized with sudden clarity that his normal life had just ended. Whatever was coming next would change everything he thought he knew about his world, his teacher, and maybe even himself. In the distance, more dark shapes appeared in the sky, moving toward his house. The blue flower in his garden pulsed brightly, creating a dome of light around his home. Ms. Williams' voice echoed in his mind. "Remember what I taught you about gravity today? Well, you're about to learn how to bend it." The blue dome of light around Alex's house shimmered as dark shapes moved through the night sky. Ms. Williams raised both hands, and suddenly they were no longer in Alex's garden. They stood in what looked like a glass bubble floating high above the city. First, you need to understand who I really am, Ms. Williams said. As she spoke, her human appearance melted away completely. In her true form, she looked almost like living starlight, a humanoid shape made of swirling blue and silver energy. I come from a place called the Stellar Academy, she explained. We're teachers, but not the kind you know. We watch over developing worlds, guiding them away from destruction. Alex stared at the city below through the transparent floor. Why our school? Why me? Because your world is at a tipping point, Alex. And you. She waved her hand, and a holographic image appeared between them. It showed a double helix of DNA, but parts of it glowed with the same blue light as Ms. Williams. You're special. One in every million humans carries what we call the stellar gene. Suddenly, the bubble around them flashed red. 3 of the dark shapes had spotted them. Hunters, Ms. Williams said grimly. They work for those who want Earth to remain primitive. The dark shapes resolved into sleek black vessels that looked like a cross between jets and sea creatures. They circled the bubble, their surfaces rippling like oil on water. Hold out your hand, Ms. Williams instructed. She placed a small crystal in Alex's palm, similar to hers but clear instead of blue. The moment it touched his skin, it lit up with a bright golden light. That's impossible, Ms. Williams whispered. It's responding to you more strongly than any student I've ever taught. The crystal grew warm in Alex's hand, and suddenly he could see things differently. He could see waves of energy flowing through the air, connecting everything like invisible rivers. The hunters' ships weren't solid at all. They were knots in space itself, tears in reality. Focus on the crystal, Ms. Williams said urgently as the ships moved closer. Picture a shield, like the one around your house. Alex closed his eyes, concentrating. The crystal pulsed, and golden light spread out from his hands, forming a web of energy around their bubble. When the nearest hunter ship fired a beam of dark energy, the golden web caught it and transformed it into harmless sparks. Good, Ms. Williams exclaimed. Now watch carefully. She pulled out her teacher's notebook, but it wasn't a notebook anymore. It unfolded into a complex device covered in shifting symbols. This is a timeline tracer. It shows possible futures. The device projected images in the air, cities crumbling, strange machines rising from the ocean, and worst of all, the sky filling with thousands of hunter ships. They're coming, she said. An invasion force larger than anything we've seen before. That's why I broke the rules to find students like you. Earth needs protectors who understand both human and stellar science. Alex watched as more images flickered past. Other teenagers around the world, each with a crystal like his, each learning to bend reality in different ways. Our class wasn't random, Ms. Williams continued. Every student there has potential. Some, like you, have the stellar gene. Others have different gifts. Together, you could form Earth's first line of defense. The hunter ships suddenly backed away, retreating into the darkness. But before Alex could feel relieved, Ms. Williams' face grew worried. They're not giving up, she said. They're going to attack the school. They know what I'm trying to build there, a hidden academy within your academy, a place to train Earth's young defenders. She turned to Alex, her form shifting partly back to human. Tomorrow, we need to find the others. But be careful. Not everyone at school is who they appear to be. Some of the teachers, some of the students, they're like me, but they work for the hunters. The bubble began descending back toward Alex's house. As they landed, Ms. Williams handed him what looked like an ordinary wristwatch. This will help you identify who's who. But remember, once you put it on, you'll see the world as it really is. And Alex? She paused, her expression serious. Some truths are harder to handle than others. As Alex stepped back into his garden, he looked at the watch in his hand. Through the crystal's lingering effects, he could see that it wasn't just a watch. It was something ancient and powerful, disguised as modern technology. The blue flower pulsed one last time before sinking back into the ground, leaving Alex with a decision. Put on the watch and see the hidden world around him, or try to return to his normal life. But as he looked up at the stars, he realized there was no going back. The only way forward was to learn the truth, no matter how strange or frightening it might be. In his pocket, the crystal hummed softly, responding to his thoughts. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new allies, and new enemies. But for now, Alex had one important question to answer. Who at Central High School was truly human, and who was something else entirely? Alex's hand trembled as he fastened the watch around his wrist at his locker the next morning. The moment it clicked shut, the world transformed. The school hallway shimmered like a veil, revealing what lay beneath everyday reality. Some students walked normally, but others. Alex had to grip his locker to steady himself. At least a dozen of his classmates left trails of different colored light as they moved. One girl's footsteps created ripples in the air like stones dropped in water. A boy sneezed, and for a split second, time slowed down around him. Shocking, isn't it? Jenny's voice made Alex jump. He turned to see his best friend, but nearly fell backward. Jenny wasn't just Jenny anymore. Her form shifted between human and something else, a shape made of green crystal that seemed to grow and change like a living plant. You're one of them, Alex stammered. Jenny smiled, her crystalline form catching the light. Guardian Class, Earth Division. Ms. Williams isn't the only one watching over this planet. She touched Alex's new watch. I see you've been recruited too. About time. A commotion at the end of the hall caught their attention. Mike Thompson, the boy who used to sleep in class, was arguing with Mr. Harris, the history teacher. Through his enhanced vision, Alex saw something terrifying. Mr. Harris's human disguise was cracking, revealing patches of dark, void-like skin underneath that seemed to swallow light. Hunter infiltrator, Jenny whispered. They're getting bolder. Suddenly, the fire alarm rang. But Alex's watch showed him the truth. It wasn't a normal alarm. Waves of dark energy pulsed through the school's electrical system. They're trying to activate all the sleeper agents at once. Ms. Williams appeared beside them, her stellar form barely contained within her human disguise. We need to move. Now. She pressed her hand against a nearby wall, revealing a hidden door made of light. Everyone with activated powers, through here. Students began running through the door, some normal-looking, others in various states of transformation. Alex watched in amazement as Mike Thompson's skin turned metallic, reflecting light like a mirror. The gym, Ms. Williams commanded. It's our secure location. But when they reached the gym, it wasn't a gym anymore. The space had expanded impossibly, revealing a vast training ground floating in what looked like outer space. Platforms of solid light hovered at different heights, and in the center, a massive holographic tree grew, its branches showing different timelines. Welcome to the real Central High, Jenny said, fully shifting into her crystal form, where we learn to defend Earth. Ms. Williams gathered everyone in a circle. Through his watch, Alex counted 30 students with active powers. Some looked human but bent light around them. Others had partially transformed like Jenny, and a few appeared completely alien. The hunters have accelerated their timeline, Ms. Williams announced. We have less than 3 days before their main force arrives. She waved her hand, and a map of the city appeared in the air. Dark spots pulsed at various locations. Their advance teams are already here, disguised as everything from teachers to city officials. Suddenly, Alex's crystal began to pulse urgently. At the same moment, every powered student's head turned toward the jam entrance. Something was coming. Something big. The wall exploded inward, and through the dust stepped Mr. Harris, but not like before. He had shed his human form completely, revealing a creature made of living darkness. Behind him stood more teachers, all transforming into similar void beings. Class is over, Mr. Harris said, his voice echoing wrongly. time for your final exam." Ms. Williams stepped forward, her stellar form blazing. "Students, remember your training." "But we haven't had any training yet," Alex protested. "Then I guess we'll have to learn on the job," Jenny said, raising her crystalline hands as plants began growing from nowhere, forming a defensive wall. Alex's crystal pulsed again, stronger this time. Knowledge flooded his mind, not just about how to use his powers, but about something deeper. He could see patterns in reality itself, like the source code of the universe. "The gym," he shouted suddenly, understanding flowing through him. "It's not just a room, it's a temporal anchor point. If we can activate it." Ms. Williams looked at him in shock. "How did you know that?" "Even I didn't." Before she could finish, the void teachers attacked. Reality itself began to tear as two different kinds of impossible beings clashed in what had once been a normal high school gym. Alex raised his crystal, golden light spreading from his hands. Somehow, he knew exactly what to do. The question was, did he have enough power to do it? Around him, his classmates began to reveal abilities beyond anything he had imagined. Mike's metallic skin refracted energy beams back at the attackers. Jenny's plants moved with a life of their own, trapping void beings in growing crystal cages. And in the center of it all, Ms. Williams fought Mr. Harris in a battle that bent space and time. The temporal anchor point beneath them began to pulse, responding to their combined powers. Something was about to change. Something that would alter not just their school, but the fate of Earth itself. Alex looked at his watch again, seeing timelines branch and split. In one future, they failed here and now. In another, well, that would depend on what they did next. The real test wasn't just surviving this attack. It was proving that humanity was ready for what came after. The crystal in his hand grew warmer, and Alex made his choice. Whatever happened next would either be the end of their normal lives, or the beginning of something far more extraordinary. The battle in the temporal gym had reached its peak when Alex noticed something strange. Each time the void teachers hit a wall, tiny cracks appeared, not in the walls themselves, but in reality. Through these cracks, he glimpsed other versions of their school, one made of crystal, another underwater, and one that floated in space. "The temporal anchor is destabilizing," Ms. Williams shouted, her stellar form pulsing with urgency. "If it breaks, every version of our school across the multiverse will collapse into one point." Jenny's crystal form sparked with green energy as she held back a surge of void energy. "Alex, your crystal, it's resonating with the anchor." Alex looked down at his crystal, now floating inches above his palm and spinning rapidly. Golden light poured from it in waves, and within its depths, he saw something impossible. A tiny universe being born and dying in endless cycles. "It's a core crystal," Ms. Williams gasped, her light dimming momentarily in shock. "There hasn't been one since the first teachers built the original schools." Mr. Harris's void form recoiled. "Impossible. The core crystals were all destroyed in the Great Division." Suddenly, Alex understood. The knowledge flowed through him like a river breaking through a dam. "This isn't just a school," he said, his voice echoing strangely. "It's a seed." He raised the crystal high, and reality shifted. The gym transformed again, revealing its true nature. The walls became transparent, showing an infinite network of golden lines connecting their school to every other school on Earth. Each line pulsed with different colors, the hidden powers of students everywhere, waiting to be awakened. "The hunters didn't come to invade Earth," Alex continued, the crystal's knowledge filling his mind. "They came to stop this, to stop us from connecting the network." Mike's metallic form reflected the golden light, creating a prismatic shield around their group. "What network?" "The education grid," Ms. Williams and Mr. Harris said simultaneously, then looked at each other in surprise. "Every school on Earth sits on a node of power," Alex explained, the crystal guiding his words. "When activated, they form a planetary defense system, not with weapons, but with knowledge. the power to elevate an entire species in a single moment. The Void Teachers began to change. The darkness drained away, revealing their true forms, beings of pure crystal, like Jenny, but cracked and corrupted. "We were like you once," Mr. Harris said, his voice filled with ancient pain. "Guardian class, Earth Division. But we saw what happens when species advance too quickly. The chaos. The destruction. That's why you became hunters," Jenny whispered, her crystal form resonating with theirs. Above them, the temporal anchor began to spin, reality fracturing around its edges. Through the cracks, Alex saw millions of students in millions of schools, all connected by the same golden lines. Ms. Williams stepped forward, her stellar form brightening. "Alex, the core crystal chose you for a reason. You have to make a choice. Activate the network, and every student on Earth will awaken to their true potential. But there's no going back. No way to undo it." The Void Teachers, the former guardians, moved closer. "You don't understand the consequences," they warned. "We've seen civilizations tear themselves apart with power they weren't ready for." Alex looked at his watch, seeing the timelines split into infinite possibilities. In some, Earth became a beacon of light in the galaxy. In others, it burned. The crystal pulsed one final time, showing him one more truth. This moment, this choice, had happened before. Again and again, across countless worlds. Sometimes, they chose to wait. Sometimes, they chose to leap. "What makes us ready?" Alex asked, the crystal hovering between him and the temporal anchor. "When is any species truly ready for the next step?" The gym trembled as reality bent around them. Every student's power manifested differently now. Mike's metal skin became liquid starlight. Jenny's crystals bloomed with impossible flowers, and others transformed in ways that human eyes couldn't process. Above them, through the fractured walls of space-time, the hunter ships descended toward Earth in their thousands. The choice had to be made now. Alex looked at his teachers, both the stellar and the void, the guardians and the hunters, and realized they were all teachers in the end, all trying to protect and guide in their own ways. The crystal flared between his fingers as he made his decision, one that would change not just their school, not just their world, but the very nature of what it meant to learn, to grow, and to evolve. The temporal anchor waited, spinning between dimensions, as Alex prepared to either activate the planetary education grid or let humanity continue on its slower path. Either way, nothing would ever be the same. Alex's decision sent a shockwave through the temporal anchor. Instead of fully activating the education grid, he did something unexpected. He gave everyone a choice. Golden light spiraled out from his core crystal in waves, touching every student in every school, showing them the truth and letting them decide. The Void Teachers staggered back, their corrupted crystal forms resonating with the waves. This isn't possible," Mr. Harris whispered. "You're changing the rules themselves." Through his watch, Alex saw the effects rippling across the world. In thousands of schools, students were experiencing visions of their potential powers. Some accepted immediately, transforming in bursts of light. Others chose to wait, the power settling into their crystals like sleeping seeds. "He's creating a balance," Ms. Williams realized, her stellar form pulsing with understanding. Not forcing evolution, but offering it. Suddenly, the temporal gym shifted again. The walls became screens showing scenes from around the globe. A girl in Tokyo manifesting butterfly wings made of pure energy. Twins in Brazil learning to bend time together. A boy in Egypt discovering he could read the ancient power lines beneath the pyramids. But the hunter ships were still coming. Through the fractured reality above them, their dark forms blotted out the sky. "We need to coordinate," Jenny said, her crystal form sprouting new facets that reflected each awakening student worldwide. "If they're all discovering their powers at once." As if answering her concern, Alex's core crystal projected a holographic map of Earth, Countless points of light flickered on it, each representing a student making their choice. Lines of energy connected them, forming a web of consciousness. The Minnet, Ms. Williams breathed. The ancient teaching network of the first teachers. Through this network, Alex could sense every awakened student's thoughts and feelings. Some were scared, others excited, all of them connected. He realized they could learn from each other instantly, sharing knowledge across continents. Mike's liquid starlight form rippled. Guys, something's happening to the hunter ships. Above them, the massive fleet had stopped. Through the temporal anchor's fractured vision, they saw inside the ships. The crews were changing, their void forms destabilizing as the waves of choice reached them. "They're remembering," Mr. Harris said, his own crystal form slowly healing its cracks. "Before we were hunters, we were students too. All of us, every species, started in places like this." The temporal gym began to transform one final time. But now it wasn't just their gym changing. Every school on Earth was shifting, revealing their true nature as nodes of an ancient learning network. Hidden technology awakened, dormant for millennia, waiting for this moment. In their gym, platforms of solid light rose into the air, each one showing a different skill to be mastered. Energy manipulation, reality bending, temporal mechanics, and things that had no names in human languages. Students from around the world appeared as holograms, ready to learn and teach each other. The first teachers didn't just build schools. Ms. Williams explained, her stellar form brightening with joy. They built bridges between species. That's what the hunters forgot. Evolution isn't just about power, it's about understanding. Through his crystal, Alex sensed a new presence entering the network. Above Earth, some of the hunter ships were transforming, their dark metal becoming crystalline, their crews choosing to remember their original purpose. But others remained dark, their void energy growing stronger. Those who chose to stay hunters, who believed that some knowledge was too dangerous to share. Jenny's crystal flowers bloomed with new colors. They're dividing. We need to prepare. Alex looked at his watch again. The timelines had shifted. Now he saw not just two possibilities, but infinite paths forward. Each student's choice created new branches, new possibilities. "Then let's prepare," he said. The core crystal pulsed, and the temporal gym settled into its new form. A nexus point between all schools, all students, all possibilities. Around them, reality stabilized. The fractures sealed themselves as the temporal anchor adjusted to the new balance. But through those final cracks, Alex glimpsed something that made his heart stop. A shape moving between dimensions, something vast and ancient, awakening in response to their choices. The first teachers weren't just a legend. They were returning, and the final test was about to begin. The shape Alex glimpsed between dimensions emerged slowly, like a star being born. Through cracks in reality, a massive crystalline structure descended. A school that dwarfed Earth itself, its corridors spanning light years, its classrooms containing entire galaxies. "The first academy," Ms. Williams whispered, her stellar form dimming in awe. "The original school, where all species learned together." The remaining hunter ships fired void beams at the structure, but the attacks simply passed through it, as if it existed in a different layer of reality. Mr. Harris, his crystal form now fully healed, stepped forward. "I remember now," he said. "We all came from there. Before the Great Division, before we became hunters, we were all classmates." Through the Minnet, Alex felt millions of students watching in wonder. The core crystal lifted from his hands, growing until it was a sphere of golden light that filled the temporal gym. Within it, images played like memories from a forgotten dream. Different species learning together, sharing knowledge across the cosmos. But something was wrong. The first academy's crystalline surface was cracked, its light dimming in places. "It's dying," Jenny realized, her crystal flowers wilting. That's why they chose Earth, why they planted the education grid here. They needed a new generation to continue their work. The hostile hunter ships gathered above them, their void energy spreading like ink through water. If we destroy this node, their commander's voice echoed through reality itself. We can stop this. Keep the power contained. Alex's watch sparked, showing him something crucial. Look, he pointed at the timelines. They're not separate paths anymore. They're all converging. Every possible future was flowing together, creating something entirely new. The First Academy wasn't just a school. It was a seed, like their own school, but on a cosmic scale, and it had chosen Earth as the place to plant itself. Everyone. Alex called through the Mendet, reaching every awakened student on Earth. Remember what we learned in physics class. About gravity? Ms. Williams smiled, understanding dawning in her stellar light. Everything attracts everything else. Not just physical things, Alex continued. Knowledge, power, life itself, it all wants to connect. Through their combined consciousness, they could feel it. Every student, every teacher, every being that had ever learned or taught anything, they were all part of one endless lesson, one eternal moment of understanding. The core crystal pulsed one final time, and Alex saw the ultimate truth. The universe itself was a school, constantly teaching and learning, evolving and growing. The first teachers hadn't built the academy. They had discovered it, hidden in the fabric of reality. High above, the hunter ships began their final attack. But this time, Earth was ready. From every school, every node of the education grid, streams of power rose up, not to fight, but to teach. Golden light met void energy, and where they touched, something miraculous happened. The darkness didn't vanish, it transformed. The void became a canvas, ready for new knowledge to be written upon it. The First Academy's crystalline surface began to heal as millions of students worldwide joined their consciousness through the Mendet. Each mind added its own unique perspective, its own way of seeing and understanding the universe. Mike's liquid starlight form spread out, becoming a bridge between dimensions. Jenny's crystal flowers bloomed across realities, connecting different layers of existence. Every student's power found its true purpose, not as a weapon, but as a tool for understanding. The hostile hunters faced a choice: continue their attack and risk destroying the very thing they once swore to protect, or remember their original purpose. One by one, their ships transformed, void energy giving way to crystal and light. Alex's core crystal merged with the temporal anchor, and suddenly their gym wasn't just a nexus between schools on Earth. It was a classroom in the First Academy itself. Through its windows, they could see the entire universe as one vast lesson waiting to be learned. This is what they were preparing us for, Ms. Williams said, her stellar form harmonizing with the Academy's light. Not just to defend Earth, but to become the next generation of teachers. The First Academy's light pulsed once more, and knowledge flooded through the Mendet. Not just facts and figures, but deep understanding. Why stars shine, why time flows, why life exists. Each student received exactly what they were ready to learn. Nothing more, nothing less. And in that moment, Earth itself transformed. Not into a fortress or a weapon, but into something far more powerful, a new academy, a place where species from across the cosmos could come to learn, to grow, to understand. The hunter ships that had chosen to remember their purpose took up positions around Earth like guardian stars. Those few that chose to remain in darkness flood into the void, perhaps to learn their own lessons in their own time. Alex looked at his watch one last time. The timelines had become a single brilliant path, leading forever forward into new discoveries, new understandings, new ways of seeing the universe. Ready for your next lesson? Ms. Williams asked, as the First Academy's light embraced their world. Alex smiled, feeling the connection to every student, every teacher, every being that had ever wondered about their place in the cosmos. I think, he said, we all are. And so Earth entered a new age, not of conquest or defense, but of endless learning. The greatest lesson of all, it turned out, was that every end is just another beginning, and every student becomes a teacher in time. In the temporal gym, now a gateway between worlds, the first class of Earth's new cosmic academy prepared to begin their studies. Above them, written in light across the academy's crystalline walls, shone the eternal truth: to teach is to learn twice.